Thank you. As Nicole mentioned, my name is Mike Bruni, and I'm honored to be moderating this impressive panel of professionals across the intelligence community. And as the title of our presentation tonight, Serving Your Country and National Security, what we'd like to do is provide you information and insight for those of you that are looking to enter into the intelligence community, or if you are already within the community looking to expand, we want to touch on that as well. You're going to get two perspectives. You're going to get a perspective from the government. You will get a perspective from the private industry side of things. So we want to make it twofold, so two different perspectives. Please get your questions. I think there's some cards going around for Q&A. We certainly want to make sure that we get to the heart of your questions, but we have some prepared as well, so I'm sure we're going to hit on a lot of areas. Question for the audience here. How many, show of hands, how many folks are looking to enter into the community or have just recently entered into the community? So the majority. Just wanted to point that out as a sampling, just to better understand our audience. Absolutely. That's the first test, yes. So again, without further ado, I'm going to ask all of the panelists to take about 2 minutes just to introduce themselves, a little bit about their background and what their current role is within their organization and the community. So I'd like to first start out just introducing Maja, please, 5 minutes.
Good evening. So, can you hear me? It's on. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. So, I am Maja Lehnus. I'm getting a no sign from the back. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the Associate Director of CIA for Talent. That means I'm responsible for attracting, recruiting, developing, training, and managing CIA's workforce. And I lead something called the Talent Center, which was created about 2 years ago. And the establishment of that center was really a statement of CIA's commitment to the intentional development of every employee. So I have actually started back with the agency 37 years ago. That really shocks everybody here. I came in as a cooperative education student doing weapons analysis. And then I proceeded to devote the next 34 years of my career to working on the foreign weapons threat and protecting America from weapons of mass destruction. I first analyzed weapons capabilities, then I managed small weapons-focused analytic programs, and then bigger programs, and ultimately I led CIA's weapons analysis effort as the director of the Weapons Intelligence, Non-Proliferation, and Arms Control Center. But then I had a chance to do intelligence integration. I went to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, where I was responsible for integrating the efforts of 10 IC agencies on the counterproliferation weapons of mass destruction issue. So I was the director of the National Counterproliferation Center there. When I came back into CIA to do something totally different, I was the Chief Diversity Inclusion Officer and produced the CIA Diversity Inclusion Strategy that's on our public website. From there, I went to be the Deputy Chief Financial Officer prior to moving to my current position. So I have had a fabulous 37-year career with CIA, wouldn't change a thing, had access to amazing information, had just incredible development and training opportunities, had the opportunity to work with and learn from some of the greatest worldwide experts in academia, industry, and the national labs, traveled around the world, meeting with foreign liaison partners, and briefing DoD and policy customers. So I joined CIA because I wanted to serve, but I stayed because it was exciting, and the opportunity to continue growing and learning while I served the nation is what kept me there. We'd do it all over again.
Thank you, Harry.
Good evening. My name is Harry Coker. And first off, I can just attest to how good Maja is. She's been a role model at CIA. Has taken on the tough challenges, the important challenges, and succeeded. So, thank you, Maja. In terms of my background, I am currently serving as the Executive Director at the National Security Agency, NSA, at Fort Meade. Just got there a couple of months ago, having a delightful time. Plenty of challenges, which is what I hope we all enjoy. But the last 17 years I've been serving as a CIA officer, primarily the Director of Science and Technology, but fortunately I've worked across our various directorates and other components. There's a lot to be said for that. We'll touch on that a bit later. Prior to serving at the CIA, I did 20 years in the United States Navy. First couple of tours as a surface warfare officer, and then the last 14 years as an engineering duty officer, primarily working space systems. And that's how I got connected to the CIA. My last active duty assignment was out at the National Reconnaissance Office, and I realized that there was a lot of folks doing a lot of good things there. And since I was enjoying my career in uniform, I figured I'd enjoy it in coat and tie, and that has certainly proven the case. So that's my background, and look forward to chatting with you all a little later today during this session and afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you. Good.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mandy Misko. These are some tough acts to follow. I'm a little bit more nascent in my career, but right now I am the intelligence officer for public-private partnerships at the Financial Services Information Sharing and Analysis Center. It's a mouthful, FS-ISAC. What our job at FS-ISAC is to do is to work with the financial services sector as a community and share information, primarily cybersecurity information, but also physical threat information among all of our members to better protect the sector as a whole. My job within the FS-ISAC is threefold. So as I mentioned, I'm an intelligence officer. I also sit at DHS's National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center, the NCIC, whereby my job is to facilitate the information exchange between the government and the private sector, the banking and finance sector. And also, I'm a cross-sector liaison, so I really work with all of the other cross-sector partners to exchange information with them. Prior to my time with FS-ISAC, I worked at DHS Intelligence and Analysis, doing cyber there for 5 years. While I was at DHS, I actually did a joint duty assignment with ODNI at the CTIC, Cyber Threat Intelligence Integration Center. And I was actually the very first DHS person assigned there, so I'm pretty proud to be a plank holder. And as Chuck previously mentioned, before DHS, I was here at INSA working on the Homeland Security Intelligence Council, which I believe has since Domestic Security now, changed its name, and worked actually on our very first summit. So I feel like throughout my short career, I've accomplished a lot, and I'm quite proud of it.
Great. Thank you, Mandy. John.
Hi, I'm John Goolgasian. I'm actually at 2 jobs right now. I'm the associate partner at OG Systems. OG Systems is an engineering and IT company in the intelligence community space. And recently, the program I started there about a year ago, we spun out into a standalone company, a little startup. So I'm the chief operating officer of a startup as well called Geospark Analytics. So I got my startup uniform on. Prior to that, so I joined OG Systems and Geospark about a little over a year ago. Prior to that, I spent 23 years at NGA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, running a number of different organizations. The last job I had, I ran all the collection. So NGA's primarily an imagery-based agency. So working hand in hand with the NRO on imagery collection, both from commercial and national technical needs, was my last role. Number of other jobs there as well. Ran all the mapping and charting for the Defense and Intelligence Agency, or intelligence community for a while. Ran counterterrorism operations there, Homeland Security operations, Iraq military analysis as well. Spent a couple of JDAs, joint duty assignments. One at Coast Guard as a loan executive there, as the deputy for Coast Guard intelligence, and then also a brief stint over at CIA working mostly with counterterrorism activities there as well. So, anyways, look forward to being part of this esteemed panel. I feel like a little bit of the intellectual ballast, but we'll try to hold it together.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for those impressive introductions. So, obviously, the title of tonight's presentation is mindsets and skill sets for success. And based on the show of hands we had earlier, I'd like to start out. I'll start out with you. One of the most basic questions, I think, to throw out there, and I'd like to get everyone's input, but I'll start with you. How does one prepare for a career in national security from your perspective? If you could just provide a little bit of insight from your perspective of how does one? In the audience here, we have folks from graduate schools going to finish graduate programs. We have folks that have just entered the community. From your perspective, how does one prepare themselves for success?
So if you're still in school and you still can elect some different coursework, you might want to focus on, courses that really focus on national security and international themes. Having foreign language is a major plus for us, so we encourage people to do that. Now, if you're already out, I would suggest that you just be able to speak to national security issues for the U.S. and be current on current events and what's going on in the world. We're really looking for people who are curious and or just want to learn new things. It's critical thinking skills, it's writing, briefing, leadership, and foreign language that are really the things that we're most interested in. If you had a chance to study abroad, that definitely is a plus because of the exposure to different cultures and understanding different perspectives. But if you have extracurricular activities where you could just demonstrate your leadership skills through those other activities, I mean, there's so many different ways in your life you could work for. Do volunteer work where you're honing your leadership and your program management skills. So there's a lot of different things you can do that would make you even more competitive.
Thank you. Please.
Well, one key thing that you should do in preparing to serve in the national security arena is know what you want to do. Know what you want to do, because there's a lot that the national security arena has to offer. There's some things that you won't get there. You won't get the public pats on the back to feed our egos. We serve in silence, essentially. And frankly, I think that's a good thing. One of the shortcomings of many humans, including myself, is we let our egos get the best of us too often. Well, in national security, by and large, you won't see your name in print. And it helped me mature and develop as a professional and a person. So I wasn't there, for me. I'm there to serve, and that's what we need to understand. When I was 17 years old, I took an oath of office with that guy back there, Chuck Zinger. But I swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. 17 years old, I didn't really grasp that. I did that because I wanted to go to college, I needed a job, I wanted to get out of Kansas. So I went to the Naval Academy for the wrong reasons, but I stayed for the right reasons, and that's to serve. So make a commitment to serve if that's what you're going to do. Now, I'll also say Constitution Day, whenever that was, 6 weeks ago, we renewed our oath of office at NSA. I fully comprehended and supported those words, and I'm better for it. So know what you want to do. And if it is to serve our great nation, then this is an exceptional place to do that. Also, in preparing to serve in national security, and frankly, this goes to whatever occupation you pursue. That academic background, yes, that's important, but one thing that's often overlooked and is vitally important is the interpersonal skills, the relationships. There have been many outstanding ideas that have not made any progress because of relationships. Need to develop trust with colleagues. That includes peers, seniors, and those not as senior to us. And trust has several aspects. Part of it is professional competency. A larger part is integrity. Need to develop those relationships. They need to be based on trust. So when things aren't going so well, that trust is there. No one will question your intent. So know why you want to serve. Develop those interpersonal skills that are often overlooked, and then be persistent. Unfortunately, when you apply, and sometimes it takes quite a while to get through the process. So know that going in. The security clearance process is very, very important. We have to be very thorough, but it takes a while sometimes. So please be persistent, be patient, and stick with us.
Absolutely, excellent points.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more with the other panelists here. But one other thing that I would mention is I completely agree that you should understand what you want to do in the larger sense in terms of serving the country. For me, it was really, I really enjoyed the DHS mission, and that's what helped, that's where I wanted to be coming out of graduate school. However, I wanted to do counterterrorism. I don't know if you guys listened to my bio, I'm not doing counterterrorism. So it's really, for me it was really being flexible in terms of, you know, maybe following the mission, but doing it in an unexpected way. And I also just want to iterate that for those of you who are here, I think you're doing the right thing in terms of finding a job. It was actually at an INSA event that I found that I met my boss, who eventually hired me at DHS in my cyber role. And I was so petrified of cyber. I had no technical background. And he said, Mandy, I have techies, I need people who can write. So for me, and I was in grad school, I could do that. I've been writing for years. So that really helped me, I think, to kind of come around and just kind of keep an open mind and be flexible. It may be your first step, and maybe cyber's not for you. I've had friends who've entered the cyber workforce and it's really not for them, and they kind of pivot and move on. But for me, it fit, I fit, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now. So I think also keeping an open mind while having your dedication to service is a great first step.
Excellent. John?
Yes. All that. I'm trying to get a couple of things that weren't mentioned here. A couple of things I'd definitely add. Ambiguity. Learn to deal with it. And if you don't, that will be your day. Your day every day will be filled with some level of ambiguity. If you want to come to work every day and know what you're going to do and work 8 hours and leave after producing these widgets, this is not the job for you. You know, again, the curiosity piece, I really love that. Those are the type of people that really are going to shine. You're curious, you can deal with ambiguity, you can shift, knowing what you're doing. I want to build on something you said as well. The unicorns, the people who really fly high that I've seen, especially in the past, say, 10 years or so, 15 years, are the one, you mentioned that there's techies, I mean people who can write. The people who can bridge that gap are the superstars of the future. The people who can understand enough technology, but can explain it to the mere mortals, and then apply that to a problem, are the ones who are going to shine and rise in the ranks of the analysts or in the senior leadership of the future. So, yes, you want to be able to understand what you want to do and focus on a piece of it, but you know, you have to think of where the community and the world is going, and not necessarily pigeonhole yourself into one place, but really able to bridge that gap between those things. Because those are the men and women who I've seen really shine over the past 10 years as we've gotten to more technical analytics, you know, more cyber, more as counterterrorism has moved to more of a multidimensional activity than just a single piece of that. So again, a few ideas that maybe weren't brought up earlier.
And I'll just tag on with that ambiguity. Opportunities are there in ambiguity.
Yes.
If the rules are not written, take advantage of that opportunity to pave a way. Now, there is certainly some risk involved there, but you know, we're in the risk management business. So take the risk, not cowboy risk. Take prudent risk and leverage those opportunities that ambiguity presents.
Harry, I'd like to come back to you. You had mentioned something I think is extremely important. I think anyone would agree. Interpersonal skills. Those quote-unquote soft skills that we talk about. Going back in your career, obviously providing advice to the audience here, was there a particular type of soft skill that you could look back on and say, you know what, I wish I had a little bit more insight at that point in my life that would have helped, obviously, drive my career?
Absolutely. So soft skill, I'm going to put political awareness there. I'm not going to say political savvy. I want to give myself a little credit. Sure. But when I was growing up in the workforce, I used to think that my performance would carry the day. That number one, mission would get accomplished, and that's what's most important. But then also professional advancement would come if I just did my job and that I would be as effective as possible by just doing my job. That's not the case. I used to think I was above the politics, but if we want to be most effective, we need to be aware of the situation, situational awareness, and politics. I'm not talking national politics. Politics is a part of that. I had a mentor, and one day she called me in and we were doing my check on the career. She said, "Hey, Coker, what do you want to do?" I said, she saw me stumble and she interjected at that point. She said, "You know what your problem is?" So I put my seatbelt on. She said, "I never raised my head. I had my head down working. I didn't stick my head up to check the environment to see where I might be able to help somewhere else, to see where my skills might be of more value." So that political awareness is key. Folks need to know you, need to know you for the right reasons, but they do need to know you. Decisions are being made about you that you're not aware of. So just know your environment. Don't go overboard with being politically aware and savvy, but know that it is a factor. So that's something that I wish I had caught on to earlier. By nature, I'm an introvert, but I knew that, again, not for personal advancement, but to have more of an impact, I needed to reach out. I needed to network. I needed to strengthen relationships to give me the opportunity to contribute as much as I thought I could.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Maya, I want to come back to you. You just talked about some of the interpersonal and soft skills, hard skills, expertise. Obviously coming from the Talent Center of Excellence there at your organization. Can you provide a little bit of knowledge and insight to this audience as far as what are the current hot skills, if you will? We have folks in, again, I know Georgetown's Foreign Service Program and some other schools here. Can you provide any, or I should say do provide, please, what are the current hot skills that your organization and the rest of the IC are really chasing right now?
So let me just couch it in that we actually hire for 100 different occupations, right? So there are many different types of jobs at CIA. Right now, we are most in need of folks to work in the operational field. So we need operations officers, we need collection management officers, so we need targeting officers. People who are really have that operational bent is a real shortfall. We're also competing, just like everyone else, for the cyber and the digital skills. So that's another area where the competition is intense, and we have a lot of needs. But we're hiring across the board for many different areas. Foreign language instructors also, I'm not sure we got them in the crowd. But those are the areas where we have the greatest shortfall, and there's an intense need right now.
Excellent, excellent. Anyone else want to further that? Any other hot skills that you see out there from your organizations?
So, from a commercial side, where we have big need is in data analytics. People who really can do it, but again, who can explain it. The amount, and I won't even talk about the classified side, the amount of commercially available content now is greater than it ever has been. Some content that used to only be available to when, on the inside is now available commercially. The opportunities are there in national security to actually use these things for good, for the right way. So that's a huge thing that we are looking to recruit and develop inside as well, because that's a very rare, even though people talk about data science and data skills, it's a very rare skill, very hard to recruit right now, especially those who can apply it. Not just I'm a good mathematician, but I'm a good mathematician who can actually logically solve a national security problem with that content.
Excellent. Question for you. A number of folks, obviously, in universities in the country are enrolled in liberal arts programs. Do you feel that, say, adding a data analysis type course or any type of data analytics type of course would be beneficial?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I don't, what I would caution against, or what I don't want to portray, is that I need everybody to be in data science. What I need, and whether from my commercial job or I'm thinking back in my government job as well, I wanted analysts who could ask the right questions of the technologists, of the data scientists, people who were data literate, for lack of a better word. Maybe couldn't write the algorithms. That's okay. There are people who can write the algorithms. But someone who could actually construct a question around a problem with the understanding of what data can do for them, and then bring that problem set to a scientist that can help develop those algorithms and do that thing. Again, there's a rare breed that can do it all, but from a liberal arts type approach, at least the understanding of what the art of possible is, and constructing those questions for someone to build.
Excellent. John, I want to stay with you, kind of switching a little bit, topics a little bit. We've talked, in my introduction, we talked about, obviously, government representation, private industry representation. You've obviously been in both camps. Can you give us maybe some examples of what the differences are, working national security from a government position, as well as from the private industry, the private sector?
No, that's great. Yeah, so I've been, again, in the private sector for almost a year and a half. And let me answer it a little different.
Sure.
Okay, so, some of the driving factors. And I would say both, in my opinion, are all about mission. Obviously from a government national security standpoint, you're about solving the hard problem and doing things for helping the country, helping the safety and security of the country and the people and our assets around the world and our interests. I'd say the same is from a commercial standpoint as well. I haven't met a single person, at least in my company, and the companies I've dealt with, who say, I'm only in this for the money, or I don't care about the mission. No, we're all trying to figure out how to advance national security or national security capabilities through something. Which, from the inside, every once in a while, you just thought of those, all those contractors are out there just getting money. Well, that's not the case at all. So you can serve on either side and serve that mission set. Some of the differences, I would say some of the speed to things, how fast you can move toward problem sets are a little different. How the speed of decision making, as well as where you go after those certain national security issues and things like that are definitely different. I haven't really seen tremendous differences in either side of it. Now, maybe I'm landed in a great place, but I really don't see that there's huge differences in how we approach the problems, which to me was gratifying on that side. So maybe not the answer you're looking for.
No, absolutely. I think that covers that really good. Absolutely.
If I could add,
Sure.
When I was with DHS, I was a federal employee, but I worked with plenty of contractors, and the contractors were often doing the very similar, if not the exact same work that I was doing as an analyst. Now, I know that's not the case necessarily for every agency. Some try to keep it, their analysis within the Fed space, but there are opportunities out there in the private sector to kind of add to the mission in almost the exact same way that a government employee would. And additionally, when I was sitting out here as a GW graduate student, I thought I need a clearance to help with national security, and that's 100% not the case. I have plenty of colleagues in my organization, FS-ISAC, who are really benefiting, one of our critical infrastructures, the banking and finance sector, and they have never seen a classified report, never walked into a SCIF in their life, but they are contributing to the mission just as much as anyone else.
Excellent. Mandy, I want to stay with you. I'm sorry, Juan. All right, anything to add? I want to stay with you, Mandy. Again, in the audience here tonight, we have students, graduate students, undergraduate students. Outside of internships, obviously you served as an intern here with INSA. What else can one do to actually enrich their education, possibly their exposure to the community outside of, say, academics and internships?
Mm-hmm, sure. So I actually found it incredibly valuable when given the time to go to think tanks. Oftentimes they have open sessions where you can just sit in and listen to what thought leaders have to say, or government experts or industry experts have to say about a certain issue. And that actually can add on to your academic experience, but also give you maybe a different perspective, maybe a policy perspective. I found that to be incredibly beneficial in my education.
Excellent. That's great. So, Maja, I want to come back to you. and this is just a straightforward question. Is service to the country, is it worth it?
I certainly think so.
Okay.
So you're part of something bigger. You know, there is a real reward from feeling you have a clear purpose and you're making a difference, and that you're helping protect America is a pretty good reason to get up and come to work in the morning. So I think it really is, and you can do that in lots of different ways. And I absolutely agree that you can do that on the contractor side or on the Govy side. We have many contractors at CIA. We could not do our mission without them. They're absolutely vital, and they're working to help us move that mission forward. So I found it to be very rewarding, and I really haven't seen the downsides over my career.
Thank you. Harry?
One word answer to that one-word question. Yes, but I'll say absolutely yes. And the key, I think, is to not lose sight of why we're serving. It should not be to put money in the bank account and pay the bills. It should be to serve. And I've lost sight of that from time to time. But I had a bit of an epiphany a number of years ago. I was driving through a neighborhood, and there was a series of signs in people's lawns that said, "Drive like your king lives here." And it just made me straighten up. Posture got correct, went to the 10-2 position, and focused on my peripheral vision. But I also thought about meaningful work. So I serve like my granddaughter lives in this nation. I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter. So I'm not just there for me. I'm not just there for her, but I certainly am there for her. And knowing that what we do every day counts in terms of security for our nation and the allies. So yes, it's absolutely worth it.
Excellent. Mandy, do you have any comments?
Absolutely, I think it's the most worthwhile mission you could think of. They call it it's called public service for a reason. It's really service to the country. And as Harry mentioned, you can look to your left and you can look to your right, and those are the people who you're helping. You can think of the person you love most, the people who make your skin crawl, but you're doing it for them too. And there's really no other mission I'd rather be working toward.
Excellent. John, want to comment on that?
Quick story. Okay.
Sure.
So it goes also to me, service, it was, and an epiphany at one point, beyond just our own national security, obviously. I mean, this is really about helping people around the world. When I was running counterterrorism for NGA, I was on a Mideast trip and was in Yemen for a short time. And in Sana'a, and again, Yemen potentially one of the most destabilized, hotbeds of terrorism around the world. And I was at a restaurant, walked outside, and across the street there was a soccer field. And there was a little boy, 3 years old at the most, with a soccer ball in tatters, walked up to me, and we started kicking the ball back and forth. At that point, I was like, I'm not here to stop terrorism for the United States. I'm here to help, people like this. And so the mission goes beyond just our own nation's security. It really is about how you can affect positive change around the world. So in that sense, yeah, this is absolutely worth the mission. Even if you have one or two of those epiphanies in your career, it's worth every second of the hours of labor and the ambiguity and the opportunity that you go through for those things.
Excellent. All well said. Excellent. Again, want to shift gears a little bit here. In this market today, as opposed to say, a decade or two ago, we tend to see more movement in the market, be it government, be it private sector. We see individuals making moves at a quicker pace. I think the average here in the greater DC metro area, at least in the private sector, is about 2.5 years that one stays in a current role. Okay. So, Mandy, I'm going to pose this to you. When is it the right time to make a move? From your experience and your opinion, when should you? When should you get that bug and actually act on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually have a friend in the audience who once said...
Did you want to point them out?
She said, if I've done something once and then I'm starting to do it again, then I kind of get the itch to move on. I'm not quite so quick to move. I kind of want to do it the first time, learn it, do it the second time, improve, and then maybe by the third time, then I'm like, I've done this, it's time for me to hand the reins over to someone else and kind of work on my own growth. If ever you feel like you've stopped growing, that's when it's time to move on.
Anyone else want to comment?
That was going to be my answer. If you don't feel like you're being stretched or you're growing in the job, you should be doing something else. But sometimes a great opportunity shows up when you don't yet feel that you've like fully mastered that job. Still stop and think seriously about it, because you don't want to regret later that you missed an opportunity. Sometimes they show up at inconvenient times.
So, all right, any comments?
I'll add that too often folks of my vintage think that everybody ought to serve 30 or 40 years in the same place. That's how I grew up. That's how, again, many of my colleagues grew up. And we have a tendency to look down upon those who move around more frequently. Well, times have changed, and I don't know that anybody coming out of college is going to say, I'm going to work for that company for the next 30 or 40 years, like my parents did when they came out of high school. They wanted that security. It's not an issue to move around. The key is continue to grow and develop and be better. So folks like me need to recognize the goodness in a diversity of experiences and skill sets and leverage that. Now, that being said, our system also needs to adapt to that. We've talked about recognizing the benefit of folks leaving government service, going out to the private sector, doing something different, developing additional skills, and then coming back to serve. We're not well situated to handle that efficiently, but we need to. There are too many valued skill sets that can be furthered in the private sector, and we need those folks to come back in to the government, to the public sector when they're ready. So that's a challenge for us.
Excellent, excellent. In the interest of time, we're going to soon move to Q&A, but I'd like to, if I could, Jeff, just 20, 30 seconds. John, I'm going to start with you. Final thoughts, any recommendations, advice that you can provide to the folks here in the audience, briefly?
Sure. It's kind of almost repetitive of what we said. Explore. Again, know what you want to do, but leave the doors open to explore different things. I loved your point on opportunity. Probably knocks a few times that you might be offered something and take advantage of those opportunities. One of the things that I think benefited me a lot in my career is I volunteered for a lot of things, and I try to explore new things. And I know a lot of people who maybe weren't offered those, or not offered them, but weren't willing to take those risks. So again, take the opportunities to explore until you really find what your passion is, and then follow that passion.
Excellent.
Definitely. Keep your head up, persevere. The right opportunity will eventually find its way to you. And as the panelists have mentioned, really look for unexpected opportunities. Like I mentioned, I would not be here today if I let fear overcome me and didn't take a cyber position when I thought my career was headed in another direction. So really just keep an open mind and keep your dedication.
Excellent.
As you embark on your career, folks will look to junior folks to be experts in particular fields, technical experts, sharp on top of the skills. Not necessarily technology, but technical. Need to have that expertise. Need to be relevant and have a unique skill set. Unique in this case doesn't mean one of a kind, but it ought to be few of a kind. You want to stand out. But as you matriculate through your career, inevitably we're going to lose some of that edge, that technical edge. We're not going to be as current perhaps as we used to be. But as we move up, it's not going to be the technical skill set that's as important as it once was. It's going to be your corporateness, your strategic vision, how you can bring things together. So that line crosses at some point. technical skills are going to start going down, corporateness needs to go up, and we will all be more valuable to our organizations as we find that sweet spot between that expertise and corporateness. And then I'll just close with the technical expertise. You need to be a SME at some point in our careers, a go-to person. The longer we're around, though, I believe we have to be SMEs in leadership and management. Not going to be the technologists, but we have to be SMEs in leadership and management.
Excellent, excellent. Well,
So I would just say, whatever job you land in, just focus on mastering the skills associated with that job and really establish your credentials that you have mastered that, because that's a foundation that you continue building on throughout your career. But keep in mind that it's always a team sport, and you've got to build a network and know who all the other players are and how to work effectively with others. That's going to be a key to being more effective in the job.
well, thank you all very, very much. This was excellent. I mean, the information provided, I think, is invaluable. Please, round of applause.
Harry, you opened the door. Mandy, you kind of did too. You don't have to have a security clearance to contribute in certain places. But to get into your respective agencies, you do. And then there's some industrial positions that obviously you need as well. So, what do we say to young folks that want to get there? But then we also tell them, here's your initial offer. But it's now going to be 460 days before we get your clearance. And the reaction is, I can't wait 460 days, right, to get a clearance. What do we tell them? How do we make sure that we can get that talent? What programs do we have that can bring people in and get them into national security careers? And John, on the industrial side too.
So you just hit on what is my highest priority, is optimizing our talent acquisition process, reducing the timelines, and increasing the volume. So it's a huge problem, and you're absolutely right. And we lose great talent along the way because they can't wait that long. You know, the best option is somebody actually has another job that they can stay with while they're waiting through that process. So major emphasis area, trying to increase the number of polygraphers, increase our background investigators, automate, use advanced analytics. We're trying to do everything we can to get it back to something that's a more reasonable process. I guess just so people understand what is involved in getting the security clearance, you know, our process starts with the skill matching. This is the position, the requirement we have. What are your skills? How does that work and look? But then you've got the physical and the psychological examination. You've got a polygraph, an interview with a polygrapher, and then you have a background investigation. So all of those pieces have to come together. My main advice to you is be completely candid throughout the whole process, because if there's any sense that you are covering something up, it can derail your whole application. So honesty is absolutely the best thing, and there are 5 things that will absolutely, they're showstoppers. So you can't have used illegal drugs for the year before application. So it has to be further back than a year before you apply for you to be considered, or you're just thrown out. Can't have any pending court cases against you. You can't be convicted as a felon. You can have a dishonorable discharge, and no illegal downloads from the day you apply. So those are the 5 showstoppers.
Well, Maja is the expert on that. So everything she told you is more current and detailed than I could have. But I'll just again emphasize to be patient. Apply early. For those that still might be in college, apply sophomore or junior year. And I believe the offer's there for a year after it's extended, something like that. So you've got time to wait it out. But
Plus there's student programs and grad fellow programs. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it's tough. When you're coming out of graduate school, you have no money. It's a very expensive place to live. So if you can wait it out, I recommend it. And in the meantime, if there's other paid internships or other job opportunities that will actually help you develop some of your skills or actually bring in new skills that you can use once your clearance comes through. That would probably be a best case scenario. I know it's tough. I was there. Mom and dad are like, where, you need to start paying your own bills. But I highly encourage, like we mentioned, perseverance. Just keep trying, and you do what you got to do. It's only really a short period of your life and your career that you have to actually sit it out.
From the industrial side, I mean, a lot of it is driven actually by government requirements. So if there's a contractual job that requires a clearance, then it requires a clearance. But there is a little more flexibility. I mean, there are more positions inside of industry that you might go apply with a company and get a job that doesn't require that direct clearance process. My new company, the startup has, we're about half cleared, half not, because most of the development work we do is on, completely unclassified data, unclassified systems. But we are, developing, contracts with the intelligence community, so it works that way. Building on that too, my own personal experience, I started to apply when I was a junior in college, and it took about, actually back then it was like 3 years or something like that, because it was during a hiring freeze as well. So there was, some of that going on. But finding the job in it may not be direct national security, but in a relevant skill set that you can actually apply once you got in. So I went and worked for an engineering firm, and that was kind of along the lines of where I was moving into with NGA's, when NGA's predecessor organization. So I tried to align learning plus getting paid while this process was going on. Again, the 3 years is not a normal thing to get hiring freeze, but but looking for those opportunities that will help grow your skill sets, whether it's again a little art skill set or technical skill set. Find those things while you're going through this.
Hi, Rebecca from Georgetown in our Masters of Biohazardous Threat Agents and Emerging Infectious Diseases, and I just have 2 quick questions. So for the women on the panel, and maybe the men can talk to this as well, what is it like being a woman in the intelligence community, and how do you see it changing? And then my other quick question is, for young people, how did you get past imposter syndrome, if you experienced that when you were beginning your career?
So I'm a woman, so it's changed dramatically from when I started in the early 80s. And I started in the weapons field as an engineer when, in fact, in one of my divisions, I was the only female analyst. There are lots of women working in the intelligence community today. And in fact, as I moved up the ranks and was on what we called our corporate board for the Directorate of Intelligence, where all the analysts were, there were more women at that table than there were men. And I was just the deputy CFO, and the CFO is a female too. We had a lot of very senior women in the organization and across the IC. So I would not really worry about that.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I'm in cyber now, which is not a heavily female-dominated field. I can look around, and sometimes there are very few other women, but the women that you do meet really try to build you up rather than tear you down, which is a really great, partnership to have with other female colleagues. And I do think that it's improving. There have been times when I've had my entire leadership chain has been women, and then there are times when there's no woman in leadership chain. So it just kind of ebbs and flows. But I think in general, there's a pretty decent female population. And regarding imposter syndrome, do you mean people thinking that you're young and you don't know anything? Is that what imposter syndrome is?
I mean, like when you're our age, it's kind of hard to I'm having imposter
It's
syndrome.
when you're in a position and you feel like you don't actually have the skills
You
to
feel like
do
you're
it.
not
Okay. I
You're
understand.
fronting that you can do it.
Like men would maybe apply for a job if they meet one of the requirements, but women oftentimes wait till they have 3 years of that required experience.
Yes, don't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You can do
don't
it.
do that. Yeah, give yourself more credit. I will admit I didn't have a lot of confidence when I was first talking about cyber in briefings. And then it dawned on me that I know the material better than anyone else in the room. I'm the one who's read report to report to report, and no one else has. So, you know, I shouldn't feel like I am lesser than anyone else there. I may not know more about cyber than everyone else in the room, but what I'm talking about here at this table, I'm actually the expert.
Just want to go back to the last question. Jay Jacoby, I was a former director of DIA. Let's make sure we understand the clearance and security process. It's the same if you're a contractor or a government. It's not any faster if you're a contractor or government. The questions are the same, whether you're whatever agency you're talking about. And in fact, probably most agencies are going to clear their government civilians on a faster track than contractors. So let's not leave the idea here that somehow it is a quicker path to security clearances outside government. I'm just afraid that we left the wrong impression. So I clarified that.
There's one up here.
Can you comment on opportunities for people with a law degree?
We have a general counsel and we hire lawyers. Yes, and it's fascinating work because you're supporting all aspects of CIA's mission. And in fact, the lawyers are encouraged to move from one part of the organization supporting, you know, whether it's a covert action program or working with, you know, just totally different experiences. So they're quite happy. They enjoy the work and find it very rewarding.
And I'll add, since you asked about law degree as opposed to lawyers, but what a typical law school graduate will learn is a very logical thought process, which meshes very nicely with our analysts. Additionally, there's some pretty stringent writing requirements for clarity. That fits right into what we do as well, so that the logic and the writing skills and overall communication skills fit across a number of skills communities in addition to practicing law.
Yeah.
And there are lots of other opportunities other than just general counsel as well. I know several people with law degrees who are doing privacy and civil liberties. So they're kind of focusing on that aspect, which is really important to the intelligence community.
Hi guys, another question from back here. So for those of us who are just beginning to explore career options within the IC, do you have advice for finding your niche? You know, we have so much curiosity about the field and in general, but just trying to hone that down.
I am a huge fan of student programs. So if you are still in school and could get in either through a graduate program or something like I did, the cooperative education program, it allows you to try different things without committing and without perhaps making that first wrong job decision. You guys have a wonderful program where you move them all around. I'll let you talk about it.
Well, at NSA we have a number of career development programs for analysts, mathematicians, linguists, data scientists, and the purpose of that program, in addition to helping the officers develop a skill set, it's also to give the officers a view of the breadth of career opportunities. So there are typically a handful of tours that one would take in a development program, serving from 30 to 90 days in various components. So you get that experience and get on the path to developing expertise, and then you're more informed when it comes time to deciding where within the agency you want to serve.
But being more practical, you just, do a lot of research on the public websites, because we try to articulate what the different types of jobs are, so you can really look at it and think, does that sound like what I'm interested in or not? And look at all the different intelligence community options and understand what the different roles are of the agencies and what might be the best fit for you.
So I'd like to ask a question around Detroit. I'm currently INSA staff and also a GA employee. I work with a lot of the grad students at INSA and folks that are wanting to get into the intelligence community. I'm so humbled and grateful that this new generation is excited about the IC. However, I often get asked, I really want to work in a specific area or a specific agency, and I've been offered something in a different area or a different agency. What should I do? What would be your advice?
So, as I mentioned, we actually have like 100 different occupations. So we often have, I've had people ask, should I come in a job that doesn't seem to be exactly what I want? The answer is, go in with your eyes wide open, because you will be expected to master that job and be proficient in it, and it's actually not so easy to hop out of it until at least 2 years that you've been there. So we've instituted a new practice which allows you to convert career services or apply to convert, and then you have to go through the whole process to be selected. If you felt you landed in the wrong place and you want to do that, but you'd have to be in the job that you came in for at least 2 years before you had that opportunity to jump. But usually, as Mandy said, you can actually find rewarding work and build your skills, and it helps you migrate, and there are many opportunities to move.
And sometimes you think the grass is greener on the other side, and that's not the case.
Okay, is there one last burning question?
I don't know a burning question, but just a question. My name's Mike. I'm Mike Champion. I actually work at DHS, and I look around the crowd here. There's a number of students here, but there's a number of us that are not just graduating. What advice would you give folks who wanted to get involved in the intelligence community mid-career? Maybe a national security background, some level of security clearance, you didn't have to wait before 60 days and things like that. What advice would you give to those of us in mid-career?
So we hire a lot of folks mid-career, and having the privilege of sitting on our promotion panels to the most senior ranks, one of the things we were noticing is that a major chunk of our folks who are making it into the executive ranks came in mid-career. So we're trying to get better at really leveraging those outside experiences, but it is certainly welcomed, and lots of talent comes in that way.
I actually came in mid-career after 20 years in the Navy, and when I recognized and stated that we're putting more emphasis on that, because at some point in our history, respective agencies, we didn't always give the mid-career hires credit, if you will, for the leadership and management experiences that they may have had elsewhere. And then that's something we're doing better at leveraging. But also, as a mid-career hire, we needed to recognize that there's still a lot to be learned at whatever agency we come on board with. Not only from a technical perspective, but the all-important cultural perspective. And that is a key to succeeding anywhere, understanding the cultures and the subcultures as you press forward. So the opportunity is there. A lot of investment has already gone into mid-career hires, so I know the agencies are welcoming mid-career hires there.
Okay. We got it. Okay, so once again, a big hand of applause for